Welcome to a new episode of Books in 140 Seconds. Today we are discussing the Juliet stories by Carrie Snyder. Snyder?
Yeah.
Snyder. We're really sorry if we got it wrong, Carrie. Anyway, so this book obviously is about a girl named Juliet. I bet that's shocking.
Stories about her.
Stories. It's a novel in stories is how Nancy is promoting it, and that makes sense because Juliet is the main narrator. She is the protagonist of every single story, but they are disconnected in a sense that beyond the fact that it's about Juliet and her family, they each focus on a specific theme or a specific moment in time. The first half of the book looks at Juliet when she and her family go to Nicaragua to be in part of the war resistance. And the second half is after she's returned to Canada. She's a young woman and just looking at how her family is different and how it's influenced her and the choices she makes now that she's a 20-something woman.
So Erin and I were talking a little bit before. Sometimes we talk before.
Yeah.
Sorry. And both of us noticed that we actually became more engaged with the book after Juliet came home because, as this kind of troubled 20-something girl, we related to that for some reason. I don't know. But there is a lot of interesting stuff in Nicaragua. It's a very vivid picture. You get this very keen sense of, with our child narrators, trying to understand these complex adult issues like revolution and the difference between their upbringing before Nicaragua and the children that they see everywhere. So you do get this very interesting gap in between what she sees and what she understands. Yet Juliet's still quite a perceptive little girl.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because her experience is so uniquely different from what her parents are experiencing in Nicaragua. She's a third culture kid. She's seeing this through the eyes, but she's a lot more easy to adapt to what's going on around her, to connect with the culture around her. And her parents are there to try to make a difference. And she has a really hard time struggling to understand that. And that's really interesting. Her family is also really screwed up in that her father is away a lot. Her mother is really regretful of that. And so this is also creating extra pressures on Juliet because she is the oldest child. She's trying to explain this to younger kids while still trying to understand it herself. And that's really interesting. She's insightful. She's perspective. The book is really lyrical and engaging, and Carrie's a wonderful writer.
I will say the strength of the book for me was how well Carrie can express these kind of amorphous feelings that you might not even understand fully when you experience them, and then you see them written on the page and expressed so eloquently and so lucidly that you're like, oh, that is. You may have had that same experience, but you couldn't iterate it in the same way that Carrie does. And I think those flashes of insight are what are so important. There's this kind of constant hum of intelligence in the book, and then it just flares up in these beautiful flashes of insight.
Yes, and that's 140 seconds. We
didn't even talk about the part we liked the most.
Oh, well.
The Four Corners of Grief.
It was pretty great.
Or of the house. Yes. But amazing.
And also when they went back to the farm.
Yeah,
after.
Totally.
Of course, it has a farm, so it's automatically our favorite part.
So if you saw how much we liked the first part, just double it, and that's how much we liked the second part.
Yes.
Okay. It's okay. Oh, and read her blog. It's amazing.
Yes, her blog is amazing. Carrie's
I might
amazing.
stalk her on the internet because she makes every day better.
I also stalk her on the internet. I don't think she knows that, though.
She does now.